Why Canada has rewritten its entire immigration system for 2026. A deep dive into the biggest immigration overhaul in a generation. Canada has always been known as one of the world's most welcoming countries, a place where immigrants could build a future, study, work, and eventually become permanent residents. For decades, Canada relied on immigration to grow its population, fill labor shortages, and support its aging workforce. But in 2026, something unprecedented happened. Canada didn't just update its immigration system, it rewrote the entire thing from the ground up. This wasn't a small policy tweak. This wasn't a minor adjustment. This was a full structural reset, the biggest immigration transformation in modern Canadian history. Why? Because the system Canada built over the last 20 years was no longer sustainable, and the pressure finally reached a breaking point. This is the story of why Canada had to rewrite everything, what changed, and what it means for the future of immigration. Canada reached a breaking point. Too many temporary residents. For years, Canada quietly became the world's largest importer of temporary residents, far more than most people realized. By 2025, over 2.5 million temporary residents were living in Canada. International students increased by over 300% in a decade. Work permit holders surged, refugee claim volumes hit record highs. Temporary residents made up 1 in every 14 people in the country. This wasn't the original plan. Temporary programs were designed to be small, flexible, and short-term. Instead, they ballooned into a massive parallel immigration system. The result? Housing demand exploded, rents skyrocketed, infrastructure couldn't keep up, schools and healthcare systems became overwhelmed. Public support for immigration began to decline. Canada realized it had created a system that was too big, too fast, and too unbalanced. So in 2026, the government made a historic decision. Temporary residents must be reduced, significantly. This became the foundation of the entire 2026 rewrite. Housing pressure forced Canada to act. If there was one issue that pushed Canada over the edge, it was housing. By 2025, Canada had the fastest rising rents in the G7. Home prices were among the highest in the world. Construction couldn't keep up with population growth. Cities like Toronto and Vancouver were in full housing crisis mode. Immigration wasn't the cause of the housing crisis, but it was a major accelerator. Canada was adding over 1 million people per year, but building only 250,000 homes annually. The math didn't work. Economists warned that without major changes, Canada would face a permanent housing shortage, declining affordability, increased homelessness, a collapse in public support for immigration. So the 2026 immigration rewrite included lower PR targets, lower temporary resident levels, stricter study permit caps, new rules for international students, more control for provinces over population growth. Canada realized that immigration policy and housing policy were now inseparable. The international student system was out of control. One of the biggest drivers of the 2026 rewrite was the international student explosion. For years, colleges and private institutions aggressively recruited students from abroad, often more for tuition revenue than education quality. By 2025, international students made up 40–80% of enrollment in many colleges. Some schools had more foreign students than Canadian students. Housing around campuses became unaffordable. Students were working full-time jobs just to survive. Fraud, ghost colleges, and exploitation became widespread. Canada realized the student system had become a backdoor immigration pathway, a labor supply pipeline, a revenue machine for institutions, a system with little oversight. So in 2026, Canada implemented study permit caps, provincial attestation letters, PALs, restrictions on work hours, crackdowns on low-quality programs, new financial requirements, a shift toward high-value fields. The message was clear: Canada wants students, but not unlimited numbers, and not in low-quality programs. Canada's labor market changed, and immigration had to change with it. Canada's old immigration system was built for a different era. For years, the country needed nurses, engineers, tradespeople, tech workers, healthcare professionals. But by 2026, the labor market shifted dramatically. Automation, AI, and demographic changes created new shortages and eliminated old ones. Canada needed healthcare support workers, early childhood educators, construction laborers, long-term care staff, agricultural workers, clean energy technicians. Meanwhile, many immigrants were arriving with degrees but ending up in warehouses, delivery jobs, gig work, low-wage service roles. The mismatch was massive, so Canada redesigned its system to be skills first, not points first. This included category-based express entry targeted provincial programs, new healthcare pathways, new rural and remote programs, more power for provinces to choose immigrants. Canada realized that immigration must match real labor needs, not just education levels. Public support for immigration was declining. For decades, Canada had one of the highest pro-immigration populations in the world, but by 2025, surveys showed support for high immigration levels dropped sharply. Canadians were worried about housing, healthcare, and affordability. Many felt the system was out of control. Trust in the immigration system was weakening. Canada knew that if public support collapsed, the entire immigration model would collapse with it. So the 2026 rewrite focused on transparency, predictability, smaller numbers, better integration, more support for newcomers, more control for provinces. Canada wasn't closing its doors. It was protecting the long-term sustainability of immigration. The system was too slow, too complex, and too backlogged by 2025. PR processing times were unpredictable. Work permit backlogs were massive, study permit decisions were delayed, refugee claims took years. Employers couldn't get workers fast enough. Families were stuck waiting indefinitely. The system was buckling under its own weight. The 2026 rewrite introduced digital processing, AI-assisted triage, faster decision pathways, new security screening models, simplified program structures, more automation for low-risk cases. Canada realized that a modern immigration system must be fast, digital, and efficient. Canada needed to protect its reputation. While Canada's global reputation took a hit in 2024 to 2025, students were living in shelters, workers were being exploited, fraud cases were rising, housing shortages made headlines worldwide. Some countries warned their citizens about studying in Canada. This was damaging. Canada built its brand on fairness, opportunity, and stability, and it needed to restore that image. The 2026 rewrite was partly about rebuilding trust. With newcomers, with Canadians, with international partners, with employers, with students. Canada wanted to show the world, we are still open, but we are fixing the system to make it fair and sustainable. 8. Canada needed a long-term plan, not year-to-year adjustments. For years, Canada made immigration decisions 1 year at a time, but the problems were structural, not temporary. So in 2026, Canada created a multi-year, multi-pillar strategy that includes 2026-2028 PR caps, temporary resident reduction targets, new student system, new work permit rules, new provincial powers, new economic priorities, new integration supports. This wasn't a patch. This was a rebuild. What the 2026 rewrite means for the future Canada's new immigration system is built on 5 pillars. The first is smaller, more controlled immigration levels. The second is higher quality students and workers. The third is better alignment with labor needs. The fourth is stronger protections for newcomers. The fifth is a sustainable population growth model. Canada is still welcoming, but now it's strategic, not open-ended. The goal is simple: immigration that works for Canada and for newcomers. Canada didn't rewrite its immigration system because it wanted to. It rewrote it because it had to. The pressures were too big. The numbers were too high. The system was too stretched. The public was losing confidence. And the future demanded a new approach. The 2026 immigration overhaul is Canada's attempt to build a system that is fair, sustainable, predictable, balanced. And built for the next generation. Canada is still one of the most immigrant-friendly countries in the world, but now it's doing it with a plan. If you found this breakdown helpful and want to stay ahead of the biggest global immigration and travel changes, make sure you stick with me. I bring you the updates that actually matter. Subscribe for more adventures.